Good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the No Respect podcast. My name is Macky, and join alongside me tonight for the first time in a long time. It's just been us two, Justin, and it's Justin. I don't know how to introduce that any better, but I'm sure there are ways. How are you today?
I'm great. It's good to be back. Just the two of us. Alex didn't make the cut. We cut him out. So
Yeah, no longer a part of this family. It's just the way it goes.
You know what? He was just lacking in a lot of areas. It was
just not hungry enough. Just like the Montreal Canadiens. Okay, this week, episode seven.
We're joking though. Alex is still part of the podcast. He couldn't make it tonight.
Yeah, that's true. Should have clarified that right away. So Alex out for this weekend. So Justin and I back to our roots, just us two. But that being said, episode 7, it's kind of broke. So we kind of fixed it. And if you've been watching the Montreal Canadiens this week, it seemed like it was going to be it's broke and we need to fix it. So that's how close it was. But tonight, as we record, it's very late at night for me, at least. It's 10:37 p.m. on a Saturday. And Justin knows that I usually sleep at this hour. But it was too important. We needed to finish the game. We needed to organize our thoughts and collect them and present them to you fresh off the bat from this win. 2-1 against the Leafs. We'll get into all of that stuff, but very quickly, Justin, I just want to get your thoughts on how good does it feel to get a victory against these Leafs and just in general, for fuck's sakes.
Well, I mean, especially given that we're going on a week-long rest, it feels great to get a win, because if we had lost there would have been questions going up on Twitter and everyone would have been up in flames to, do we trade Dano? Do we throw Claude into the St. Lawrence River? Do we, whatever we do. So it's great to get a win and go into a positive into the week. I guess the bye week, you can call it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And since we're starting off today's show, I want to start off with our shout outs. We've got so many, once again, the recurring fans. It's weird to say fans. It's kind of like just thank you so much for listening and to be so active on our stuff. So
I like to think of that they just tolerate us. Like that's,
that's how I see it as well. That's why. So there's Joseph Carl Proshowski. There's Adam Peltor 84. Adam L. There's, again, Jay Miolgi. I'm sorry if I screwed that up. We had Gibby, Lewis, all of those boys from Have a Listen that we had last week. Well, I mean, we just had Gibby. But, again, a huge thank you, guys. And what we would actually ask, if you guys want, moving forward, is that if you do comment on, let's say, an episode or whatever it is, whether it be, if you leave a review, if you send us a take, we'd love to argue it. Like if you give us like an opinion or like just a question, we'd love to use that. So if you guys have any thoughts, by just commenting, of course, you'll get the shout out, but we'll also use that as a leveraging point to talk about during the future episodes during the episodes in the future, I should say. And just to kind of start things off. So again, a huge thank you to everyone that's been really engaging with us. It's been a blast this season. As you guys all know, we've been keep saying it. So without further ado, the Habs have looked like trash for the past week. And that's what we're here to talk about. And we're here to talk about why they look like trash. So there's a couple of things that I think, and I want to get your thoughts, Justin. I know that you spoke a little bit about, their performance, but more specifically, what do you chalk it up to?
I mean, it can be a lot of things. Like there's it's hard to really pinpoint one problem with the Habs this week. You could talk about kind of hunger for the puck and for just winning puck battles. Like we saw that against the Leafs and the Oilers. It seemed like we just didn't have a lot of speed to get to the puck, and when we did get to the puck, we would get beaten along the boards and stuff. And yeah, it's hard to say because we do have a good team, and it seems like we should perform well, but we just haven't been able to put it together. And it seems like stuff that we did so well in the beginning of the season, like forechecking, like back checking, and like defensive play, like our defense, how they played in the beginning of the season, hasn't been there for the past maybe 3-4 games. So that's what I would say. But like I see so many different opinions on Twitter and everything, and on CBC or wherever you watch the games. Everyone has their own opinion of why the Habs aren't playing as well as they had during the beginning of the season. So it's really I don't know. It's kind of a conundrum. I'm not sure.
Well, listen, the conundrum is I want to say semi-solved with tonight's victory. Like, it's pretty crazy that we put so much weight on this one game, and it's a shortened season though. The thing is that this 3-game skid, I want to call it, it's been a little bit longer since the Habs have looked like shit. I'd say since Ottawa, which has been 5 games. And so 5 games in a 56-game season is, I can't do the math very fast, but I believe that's 10% close to it. It's like an 8% sample size.
10%. Sure.
Yeah, so that's pretty good on my part. Just quick maths.
Hey.
But yeah, so the leash is short. I get that. I found it weird that we were so ready to pull that trigger on the Habs. Like I don't know why I'm surprised. It's Montreal. We've got this passionate fan base. I know that we want success. We have our expectations that have been raised, but even teams that are great, they have lulls of like 4 to 5 games. It's normal.
Yeah.
Now, I do agree that in a 56-game season, that can't be an 8-game losing streak twice like last season. I get that. Don't get me wrong. But I was taken aback at how fast that the tides turned. So we went from a week where we were still making phone calls to plan the parade. We were this team is so good. We've established our identity. This is what the Montreal Canadiens are. I made videos on YouTube saying the Habs are the real deal. And well, sooner rather than later, I guess that changed, of course. But I are you surprised to what extent that the reaction shifted? Is this normal? Is it an overreaction, or is it merited?
Well, I mean, for me, I don't think it's merited ever, because if you look at our record, even with the losses we had in regulation, we're still 9-4-2, which is good for, I think, 4th in the NHL. So we're still a top team in the NHL, even though we're going through this little skid. So I think the reaction, well, I think like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Like, since we played so well, it seems like such a difference of performance that it's like, it's so jarring to see the Habs kind of underperforming like this when you see them putting up 6-7 goals against Vancouver and stuff. So I think that's part of it. But obviously, like, Montreal fans, and I think a lot of passionate fans in general in sports, are just very reactionary. And like, whatever happens, the last thing to happen, they're gonna say like, "Oh, this is the fucking worst thing or the best thing to ever happen." So it's I think it's more so in Montreal because our fans are just so fucking crazy, and I love them.
Yeah,
but
I love them too.
I mean,
but
I'm like that too.
Them.
Like you'll see that from me and other people as well. But yeah, I think it's but definitely blown out of proportion, and I hope that we go back to kind of playing better hockey so our fans kind of calm down a bit. But yeah, I don't know what you think. Like, do you think this reaction has been like really over the top, or par for the course for the Habs fan community?
It's definitely par for the course. And I think the fact that I honestly think this, I could be wrong, but I honestly think the fact that it's COVID makes it worse. Because you put so much weight on the entertainment that is hockey nowadays that I can see it being that, like, it was literally, like, we lost against Ottawa and we're like, fuck, that was a shit game against Ottawa. And then we won a shitty game against Ottawa. And since then, we've lost 3 games since that Ottawa game. And then after that, we won tonight. 3 games. And like you said, 9-4-2. We're, like we
Well,
have to put these
before
things
the
into
Ottawa game, we
perspective.
hadn't even lost in regulation. Like the Ottawa loss was the first loss in regulation,
Exactly. I
which
know,
is
but
insane.
that's my point. Is then, but then after that, all the questions, and then like you have like we only played against Vancouver. This is why we were so successful. Vancouver was, the team that that's been going down the drain. I'm so sorry for you guys, the Canucks fans, after seeing the playoff performances and where you guys are at right now. I do feel for you because that's a bit of a yo-yo. Also, I recently learned, just because we're on the topic of Vancouver, is that they are staying pat. The owner came out and said that they will not be making any changes for the Vancouver Canucks. So,
Francesco Aquilini,
yeah,
the most
bene,
Italian
bene.
name you can ever
Grazie.
say and talk about.
Grazie.
Yes.
We stand pat. We stay al dente, okay?
Travis Grini, the good. Travis Verde, yes.
So, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That being said, is that when coming back to the Montreal Canadiens, is that this was such a shift in emotions, and I don't think it was merited, to be honest. Looking back, listen to me. I understand there's the condensed season, like I said, but fuck, man, it's a bit much. Like, it's a little bit of a lull. Give them enough time for you to panic. Like, I agree that it's worrisome, but to already be saying fire Claude Julien, I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's fair. Like, I know that a lot of people have their griefs with him. Like, I will say that, Claude Julien, for me, he's a very defensive-minded coach. But I believe that the way that the team is constructed and the way that you want the foundation of your game, he's a great coach. Do I think that with more talented players that he needs to adjust his system and take more risks? Yes, I totally agree with that. But do I think that he's completely useless? Do I think that the Habs have sucked in the past because of Claude Julien? No. So I think he's a good coach that is not perfect, like any coach, I think. But I'm not on the boat of Claude Julien should be gone, especially just because of this 3-game skid. And you see tonight, there's a couple of, when we talk about tonight, it's Saturday once again. So this is the victory that we had. And Thomas Tatar gets scratched. He's shaking up the lines. All of those things, so I see a coach that knows that he's in trouble and he's not being stubborn about it and he's doing things to shake things up. So I'm of that camp. I don't know where you stand in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the most technical hockey guy. I don't know the specifics of systems between different coaches and stuff like that. The only thing I see with Claude Julien is sometimes it seems like he's pretty slow to adjust in a particular game. Like we saw in Edmonton and against Toronto, we weren't getting any high danger chances. Everything was coming from the outside. We got against Edmonton, we got 38 shots, but I'd say about 2 of them were actually high danger shots. So I think that's my gripe with Claude Julien's system is that we seem to get a ton of shots, but not a lot of them are high danger, and it seems like it's just kind of go quantity versus quality. Yeah. Which I mean, I think maybe 60% of the time that works well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. My main problem with him is that he doesn't seem to be able to adjust too well when his system isn't working well. So I again, I'm not the most technical hockey guy, so I can't tell you what to fix in that regard. Mm-hmm. But that's my only problem with him, I would say. But I don't think he should be fired. I don't think, obviously it's 3 games. We're 9-4-2. You don't fire a coach like that unless you're Lou Lamoriello with Claude Julien again with the Devils organization where they were a winning team and the Devils fired him. But yeah, I don't think he should be fired. I think that's kind of ridiculous at this point in the season, at least.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the leash is short. From a systems perspective, even as somebody who's played hockey since the age of 3 years old or whatever, I played low level hockey. For those of you who want to know, I was playing hockey at 260 pounds. Let me put it that way. Okay. So what?
Big boy.
Yeah, I was thick. I'll tell you that much. I was a hard-nosed D man. I'll tell you that much. But from my perspective, and in being in hockey situations where coaches have certain systems or whatever, not to the same level of an NHL coach, of course, but for me, it's mainly the gripe that I have with him is his line selections and certain matchups in situations that would require him to put talent over defense first. That's
over
where
like high risk versus like the safer
yeah,
bet.
and especially that the high risk guys that you're talking about is like maybe Nick Suzuki over Philip Danault on
Yeah.
a certain matchup, or maybe even a Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and maybe I don't want necessarily Jesperi Kotkaniemi on a certain matchup versus somebody else. It's just that like I feel like Claude Julien would always go for the guy that you have no questions asked on defense over the guy that you might have a little bit of a question, but the upside on the offensive side is there. So I do agree with those takes. I do think that there's a little bit of an adjustment to be had there. But to come back on what I feel the problem was for the Montreal Canadiens, and what we saw a little bit different, of course, and they mentioned it on Sportsnet a lot, which was the fact that we weren't getting those second and third chances. It was the one and dones, which I totally agree with. But I feel like now that the Habs have been playing against multiple teams, there's more video. They've adjusted. They've adjusted their play, and they've said that, okay, we need to force the Habs to play in the zone and not on the rush. And so what that does is force you to be a bit more, I want to say, creative and not use your speed, because this team is fast. So when you're not using your speed, it becomes a question of agility, playmaking. And I don't think Claude Julien's system is about that, because it all starts with defense first. And defense first means you get a clean break because you've separated from your body from the puck. You've gotten the puck back, get out and go to the net and make sure that you're defending as you come back. But O-zone, for you to be effective in today's NHL, it means that maybe your D-man goes behind. Maybe it means your winger needs to be back. All of those things that mean that you're going to be a bit more risky. And if the Habs aren't risky enough, aren't as effective. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah.
As somebody who's played hockey,
Yeah, I think you're right on it there, because I think that through the first, whatever it was, like eight or so games, we were just getting so many chances on the rush and getting goals on the rush too. Yeah. And when that wasn't necessarily happening against Toronto and against even Ottawa and Edmonton, it seemed like when we were in the zone, like it seems like when we're on the rush, the play seems to get a chance on the rush, and then the forwards kind of have their speed, so they kind of spin around and can come back to defend if they need to. Mm-hmm. But since we weren't getting that good chance on the rush, we would kind of stop and be stuck in the O-zone, and then we weren't maybe aggressive enough to get the puck back. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like, at least in the third period of the last Toronto game where we won tonight, that we were more aggressive on the forecheck when we wouldn't get that first chance on the rush, and then we got the puck back, and that's how we got that first goal with the great play on the boards by Gallagher to swing it to Danault.
Unreal.
And then Danault passes it to Toffoli.
What a dirty feed! I needed to see that.
Amazing play, like that. Actually, that gave me so much hope for Danault.
Yeah, I was like, give him the $5 million right now. Yeah. It's fine, no problem.
Yeah, no, that was great, and that's So I think you hit the nail on the head there. And
because one example that I have, and the difference, obviously we talk about Toronto, we have fun with Toronto fans, but they have great talent.
It's not always fun.
But what I saw in the 4-on-4 situation was exactly what Montreal doesn't do very well. It's that in zone possession type of game, and I saw it when they had the talent of Austin Matthews, I think it was William Nylander, Morgan Rielly, all of these guys that were just passing around. They were just playing with them. And it goes to show you that there's that side that the Montreal Canadiens are not at that level when it comes to that game. And what was really worrying me about the Montreal Canadiens this week, again, to come back on the negative side of things, is that, in a game in 2 games where you hold Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to a very limited amount of points, you still fucking lose. And it becomes a game of depth, and you're not winning the matchups of depth.
Yeah.
That was the part that was deflating as a Habs fan this week, is that you were making the teams play your game, and you were losing the game the way that you would want to play it. That's the part that was, I think, the thing that scared me the most, because I felt like, okay, well, the Habs were a one-trick pony potentially. I didn't want to believe it, because I know that this team is not that. Like, it's impossible that we go from, even if we're playing against Vancouver, has been fucking a fire tire. What is it? What's the fucking tire fire? What is it? Tire fire. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. Fire tire. But like, this team on paper, in reality, in fucking figuratively, everything is good. Okay. So that was, I think, the worrisome part for me.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of teams kind of saw that we were getting our chances by moving the puck in the neutral zone and getting an opening like that. So they just kind of clogged up the neutral zone. And it's easy game to play when you're just putting a lot of players in the neutral zone with active sticks. That it's a pretty simple thing to do.
It's a trap. Well, that's what the fucking Ottawa Senators did, and then everybody was like, "Okay, well, let's try this."
Yeah, you're forcing them to dump and chase, and that's just what happens. And then the Habs need to be very aggressive in the forecheck, which leads to kind of defensive mishaps. So I mean, that's what happened in the first Toronto game. Like we were kind of forcing plays in the offensive zone that led to turnovers, which led to those 2 4-on-4 goals that were just kind of like possession driven by, I guess, the Toronto Maple Leafs. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely frustrating to watch, but you have to know that, like, when teams do play this way, they need to score goals. And like I found, like, both times where, especially against Ottawa and Edmonton, of course, like, well, I mean, against Toronto as well, like, the top players on those teams were still kind of being shut down by the Canadiens, and they couldn't get those chances, so they had to kind of rely on the more, like, garbage goals.
Yeah.
So that's the way you win with the trap. Like, you get those kind of garbage goals, and then you sit on the trap.
Yeah.
So that's the only way that I see that, like, it's not necessarily going to be a problem for the Habs, since those teams do need to get that kind of garbage goal and just kind of sit back. Yeah. Because I think the Habs do have the upfront quality in players to get that goal first.
Yeah, like, I mean, the Oilers game, like, I think, what was that, the deflection off of, like, Shea Weber hitting off Danault's skate, then after his stick going into the back of the net, like, that one's a deflating one, especially, the Leafs game. Listen, I don't think we played a good game. I think it was a very quiet game, and people seem to be liking these quiet games against the Habs because it seemed to be effective, and it was almost effective last time. So tonight, but we gradually got better over the game. We said it, and but there were certain elements that I feel like over the week it started to become a confidence thing, because you come off of this shitty 2 games that you did win one versus the worst team in the league, though. Against Ottawa, and then you come into the Leafs and you just, the game escapes you. It's not a good game that we played at all. I don't want to say that it was like the worst, but it just, like, it didn't seem like there was anything there, especially when you compare the difference. There was really night and day for me, the difference between what we saw in the Habs the beginning of the week, the beginning of the season, I should say, and really, like, exciting hockey off the rush, like, just some heart, some passion, and it just didn't seem to be there. Oilers game, same thing. And then finally this game is like, as the confidence started to wear out, this is really where they needed to show up. Unfortunately, they only started doing it towards the second half of the second period, and that's when they really turned it up. And it's great to see a guy like Gallagher be leading the way and showing his leadership. He's been around the block when it comes to this shit, so it makes sense that it'd be him.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I hate giving them credit, but give the Oilers give the Maple Leafs credit. Their defense was actually way better than I thought it would be.
I was
They
going to
were
say that too.
yeah,
I was going to say that.
they were shutting us down. Like you said, like when Sportsnet was talking about it, where we would get a chance, but then it would be one chance, and then the Toronto kind of gobbled the puck up and would have it the other way.
Yeah.
So like they did such a good job of kind of winning board battles on the wall and just not giving the Habs a second and third chance.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of like the Habs kind of broke through that in the third period and opened up the game and were able to get a chance, and then kind of they got the goal, and then it kind of opened up the game, and it made us better at playing our own game, because it just opened up like the neutral zone because they were taking chances too. Yeah. And it just went to our advantage, and then we ended up winning the game.
Well, that was the thing, is that like I said it a little bit before, and I'm gonna be completely honest. You know, I wasn't sold on the Leafs defense prior to this season, and seeing them play against the Habs, albeit against the Habs team that's been less confident these days, but I'm getting to the point where I can actually see the Toronto Maple Leafs being a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs, because their defense is actually good. It improved greatly in terms of the way that they're playing defense as a unit. Players are being more accountable, and it shows, because they can play boring games. That's important. You got to be able to play those boring, grinding games. And my biggest flack with the Toronto Maple Leafs roster was the fact that they didn't have the depth to support it. But I give them credit, man. You know, Wayne Simmons, unfortunately injured, but he was having a hell of a start to the season.
And Joe Thornton even injured too.
Exactly. And but mainly just their defensive play as a unit under Sheldon Keefe. I give them credit. You know, like I wasn't expecting them to be this good at playing boring, grinding, hardworking hockey, because they haven't necessarily needed to. So I give this team a lot of credit, and I honestly, I was literally like arrogant about it. I was like, the Habs are going to win a series against the Leafs. Yep. Now I'm not too sure. Like, it's going to be a hard fucking fought series, and I can't wait. I can't wait.
I think the Leafs are a lot better as a unit, as you said, like as a team, than I gave them credit for. I don't know what happened in the offseason or what they changed, what Sheldon Keefe brought to the table, but obviously it's something, because they're playing as a unit, like you said, and just well defensively that I haven't seen before. Like, there's players like Justin Hull that have stepped up that fucking Sportsnet couldn't stop talking about.
For sure. But honestly, like he actually deserves to be spoken about.
Yeah,
he's
been solid for sure.
Because if he's emerging as a guy that, you know, replaces the depth piece, that, because let's be honest, the Habs have had those situations where just because you have a no name, and then people are just like, what, you have like Brett Kulak on your bottom pairing or whatever it is like, and then after that you saw what he did in the playoffs, and you're like, buddy, did you see Brett Kulak? Because he was fucking flying out there. Not that much these days. We'll get into that later, but you know, like, I don't want to fall under that same hypocritical kind of like, from the Habs perspective, we felt it because we haven't had those established names or whatever it is. So this happens when you don't follow another team, and it's easier to just read headlines, read the fact that there's no street cred to a name, but it's not proper analysis. So I don't watch the Leafs particularly enough to know how good Justin Hull has been, but yes, he looks solid, especially in those two matchups that we played against them in.
And one thing, the Leafs, I mean, if it weren't for, and we haven't talked about him yet, but if it weren't for Carey Price, I feel like the Leafs didn't have to play that kind of complete game, because they were in the first period, at least, they were getting so many high danger chances that could have been goals if Carey Price wasn't there to shut the door. He really kept us in this game in the first period. And for the rest of the game, he was still solid and only let in one goal, which was great to see. Mr. Saturday Night back in action. And showing everyone, including myself, with who's wearing the jersey right now, Carey Price,
love it,
that he is the real deal, and we knew it. We just needed him to show it again.
Yeah, we had the conversation, and listen, I know Carey Price has it in him. Like we all know that. Like if you really know Carey Price's game and you've watched this Habs team, like the fact that you put that in question is bullshit. However, when you are paying a $10.5 million contract per year type of deal to a player, it's okay to get pissed, and you need to you have to have that happen more often than not. Like you can't just pay $10.5 million and Carey Price doesn't show up for the regular season and steals a game. The same way that an Austin Matthews, the same way that a Mitch Marner can go in and change the game. This is why you have Carey Price in certain moments. You can't expect it on a nightly basis, but you need to expect it on when your team
more
needs
often
you.
than
It's
not.
just,
Yeah,
exactly. You need him, like just like how Batman. He needs it's whatever Gotham needs him to be. You know what I mean? That's what you need from Carey Price. Okay, and so I'm really happy to see him be the foundational piece to this win against Toronto tonight, because it ends us off with the fact that we're heading into the bye week just lighthearted. I was not feeling good this week. This is the life of a Montreal Canadiens fan. Of any fan base that has that passion for their team, you guys know what we're talking about. The Vancouver Canucks are going through hell right now. I know. It's tough to be a Nucks fan, but I have another question. The Tatar scratching, do you like it?
I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? So like, if you're talking about it as we came out with the win because we scratched Thomas Tatar, I mean that's an argument you can make, but I didn't like it personally. He's the top point scoring Canadian we've had in the last, since he's been on the Habs pretty much. So as much as he's been slumping, he has 8 points in 14 games, I believe. I don't think you can scratch a player like that. Even though, I mean, he's been slumping, but his line mates too. Like, I mean, Danault has been lackluster at best, all around. And I just think that, like, maybe it's sending a message. Maybe that message worked for the Habs. Yeah. But I don't think you can afford to scratch a player like Tatar to replace him with, like, a Corey Perry.
I respect the take, though, the fact that, like, even after the win, you're sticking with your guns. I respect the shit out of that.
Well, okay, I would be wrong if Corey Perry came in, or if some other player that was waiting in the wings came in and made a difference and really showed something that the Habs didn't have before, then I would kind of agree. But I think all Tatar brings is danger in the offensive zone, and that's something that the Habs have been lacking. So I think by keeping him in, you're like setting a fire. Like maybe scratching him is setting a fire under his ass. But I think he's kind of a player that you want to like put it in the next gear and actually get chances there, because he's the player. Like, if you have a Corey Perry playing well, it's not going to be as effective as a Thomas Tatar playing well. But yeah. I mean, that's my take. I don't know how much it affects players when they get scratched. Obviously, personally, it affects them in a certain way, and the team, it affects them in a certain way. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I have a counter take. I could be wrong, 100%. But I was gonna use such like a dark analogy. I won't use it. But like, I was gonna use the fact that Claude Julien, I could be completely off on this, but he uses the fact that Thomas Tatar is scratched to send a message to Philippe Danault, kind of like you would use your loved ones against yourself if you really wanted something to happen, like in like a dark hostage situation. I don't know why I have this in my mind. Okay. But this is the way that I see it, is that because Philippe Danault, we don't have a replacement for Philippe Danault. Regardless if he's not playing to the level that he should be playing, Philippe Danault is too important to this team. And sending that message to Thomas Tatar that is also obviously not performing well, for me, that's a way to get even more out of Danault in this game that we saw without affecting the team in a negative light. Because, again, I come back to my center argument is that you remove a center, you're hurting the whole 200-foot game. You remove a winger, he might not be as effective, but the replacement here is Tyler Toffoli on that line specifically, so there's no problem with that line. So that's the first thing that he did well. The second part, yes, maybe Kotkaniemi's line where it's Perry and Armia, maybe not as effective without Toffoli there, but who cares? Because it's lighting that fire under Danault's ass as opposed to using Tatar as the figurative fire. You know what I mean? That's the way I could see it happening. And I could be completely off because if he's doing what you're saying, then he's an idiot. Like, if he's thinking that, Corey Perry's going to be more effective, that's complete bullshit. That's never going to happen. Well, if he's thinking the way that I'm thinking, then I'm like, okay, I can understand that.
I mean, I see what you're saying, and I agree that you can't necessarily take Danault out of the lineup because he eats up the most minutes, I think,
like
all
even
around.
Even a trashy Danault, we agree, like, is still going to match up against an Austin Matthews and do a pretty effective job, right?
Yeah, for sure. And don't get me wrong, I was ready to bash Danault to the fucking moon if we didn't win this game because he gave up the puck to Austin Matthews to give up the first goal. But I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying just because I feel like, at least from like a team perspective, Danault doesn't seem to be getting kind of punished. Like Tatar got sent to the fourth line in the game prior against Edmonton. Danault gets almost rewarded by instead of a slumping Tatar on his line, he gets Scory Toffoli, like the one of the top scorers in the NHL on his line. So I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. I think it's more. I think Claude Julien's goal is maybe more to encourage Danault to be more offensive and maybe like spark his game. I don't think necessarily that he was punishing Danault in this move. But definitely I think you're right that it affected Danault and being like, it's kind of partially my fault that you're getting scratched as well. Yeah. So I think in the long run, after this whole hypothesis we put out, I think it is effective that we scratched Danault. Because Tatar. Tatar, because it's obviously just a mind game for Danault. Yeah. And it worked because Danault got an amazing assist to Toffoli, and we won the game. Yeah. And that line scored both goals.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, Brendan Gallagher was a huge part of that as well, who's been, he's Brendan Gallagher. He just doesn't stop. So, but I honestly think Claude Julien doesn't like goals. I think he
hates them.
He'll go back into tape and like people celebrate goals. He's like celebrating stick checks and like face-off draws. He's like, yes, that's it. That's hockey. 0-0. I like it. But yeah. So the last thing that I want to touch, and it might be a bit of a shorter episode today, guys, just because there's the bye week. We were actually supposed to have a guest on. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but Stuart, let me tell you a little something, is from England, and he is new to the Habs Nation, and we thought it was a super cool story, and we're going to have him on either next week or whenever it is. It's the bye week, so we might have a couple of guests on since there's no games. But yeah, so Stuart is from England. He's new to hockey. And he chose the Montreal Canadiens. So we're going to have him on. We wanted to ask. It's not every day that you get to ask somebody. He agreed to come on. First of all, we're not just just kidnapping Stuart.
It's consensual, virtually. Okay? It's consensual.
It's a consensual interview. And so we're going to ask him some questions that I don't think we ever get to ask a fully grown adult, a fresh take on hockey and the Habs, just like an outsider perspective. So gonna be super pumped to have him on. So Stuart, if you're listening, we're really excited, and so I wanted to mention that. You were gonna say something, Justin? Sorry.
Not really, but yeah, I agree. It's kind of like it's good. It's gonna be good to kind of ask someone who doesn't necessarily have the biases of a normal Habs fan. Yeah. About stuff related to the Habs.
Exactly. And I'm curious to see what question, like he's gonna have some questions. He's admitted to me that he has questions and that he's still getting used to it. So like if we can answer some questions, it's gonna be interesting. So if you guys have any questions for Stuart, please let us know and we'll ask him next week. Last thing I wrote down, and this is before I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. Something crazy happened to us, but me and Justin, or I should say Justin and I, were out in a park here in Montreal, and we ran into a Habs player. So I'll get into that later. I'll keep you on the hook for that one. So last thing that I want to say for the Habs is Mete Kulak. Now, we saw Mete in 2 games this week, right? It was the first Leafs game. Was it that? I could be wrong.
We saw him in both Ottawa games, wasn't it? I think
Was
it was both
that?
Ottawa games, and then he got scratched.
Something like that.
I'm not 100% sure, but we saw him definitely in a couple of games past week.
And the one that's important is tonight, because I feel like Victor Mete played a hell of a game. Now, I want to ask you, in this rotation that Claude Julien has been doing, or whatever, in quote marks here, this rotation between Kulak, Mete, and Romanov, what do you think about Mete and Kulak? Which one do you think deserves the spot here on the Habs roster? And obviously Romanov is probably part of it, but out of the two, which one? I want to just take Mete and Kulak. Which player do you think is more effective for this team?
You know what? For me, they're very kind of similar but different players, because I think both players can kind of join the rush with speed and try to make plays from the back end. But obviously, Victor Mete is better at joining the rush, and with his speed and with his kind of ability to go on the side and beat kind of defenders. I think he's better at that. But obviously, Kulak has more size. And he's better, I find, obviously, in the corners and getting pucks out. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword with them. Like, I feel like they're both fast, and I feel like only Kulak can really be effective as a big-bodied defenseman, obviously, because Victor Mete is like 3'2". So, I mean, to me, if Victor Mete can keep it up with the kind of game he played against Toronto, the second game, and really have an impact on the offense of the team, on the rush, obviously, I think he should stay. But if he can't, I think Kulak is the more safe option, because I think he's just better at. I think he's better in his own zone defensively to kind of win those battles on the wall. Because Victor Mete, I think he tries very hard, but at a certain point, like he's small, he's too small that he can't necessarily win those battles just with the effort factor there. Like at a certain point, you need the big body and you need the kind of the big frame, basically.
So what I will say about that is I see it a little bit differently. Is that for me, Kulak, given the fact that I think his I want to say his baseline game is much like his I want to say idle game. I'll say idle. I think that's a good word. Idle game of Kulak is better than Mete's idle game. But Mete, when he's not playing idly, is much more effective to this Montreal Canadiens team. And for me, what I see when Mete is effective is when he's taking chances. He's going up the rush, because there is no person on our blue line. We've got the size, okay? You got the Edmondsons, you got the Petries. Like, Petrie is fast, don't get me wrong, but apart from Petrie, who I don't think has the explosive speed, he has the speed, not the explosiveness. But apart from that, nobody has the explosiveness of Victor Mete. No one. Not a Kulak, not a Cale Fleury. There's no person in our lineup, in our pipeline right now, that can play in the NHL and bring what Victor Mete brings when he's playing that type of game. So for me, if Mete, like you said, plays the way that he does, I would trade Kulak 7 days a week over Mete playing this way. But again, the question is can he play this way? And I think the answer is yes. So as long as he takes, if he models his game after what he does when he's effective, which is not to play the safe game, it's not to play the Shea Weber game, it's to play the Victor Mete game. You are fast. How are you going to get the puck? It's by being faster to the puck to someone. That's how you're going to play defense. It's not by being a big body. Is that he's a thick boy, get the body and cut your gap. That's what you do as a defenseman. And I think that this guy is going to be very, very key to this team. And having a different look and a little kind of spark plug that you can put a Victor Mete with a Shea Weber on one side at one point, whatever it is, even at the top on the Shea Weber with the Jeff Petrie or whatever it is, you could just pop. You could pop a little Victor Mete no matter where you need. It's like olive oil almost, you know?
Jeez, okay.
But do you get what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
No, I totally get what you're saying. And I think it's true. Like if Victor Mete has that kind of X factor in his game, bless you by the way. And
that was a cough, thank you though.
Okay, Robitussin. So I think he has that kind of X factor in his game where he can kind of join the rush and be a big help to the Habs offense on the back end. But I think he's kind of like a good kind of 6th, 7th defenseman, because against those teams that we know have a kind of slower lineup, I think he'd be great to kind of use in those games, and we could switch kind of Kulak and him out. I know that's not kind of great for their momentum in the season and them like kind of keeping fresh legs for those players, but I think that's how it's going to be this season. Like we're going to kind of see a rotation of these players, because we actually do, I believe, have 7 NHL defensemen that are ready in Kulak and Mete, and obviously the 5 others that we have right now. So sure. I can see us kind of keeping it how it is right now and subbing in these players in different situations when we see that we need more of kind of 6 defensemen that are going to be there, big bodied and shutting everything down, versus having a more open offense and having our defensemen wanting to join the rush. Yeah. So I think I think Kulak can do both. So yeah. I think Kulak to me is the safer bet of the two. Yeah. But obviously I agree with you that Victor Mete has that X
factor.
Yeah, exactly. X factor on his game, that if he's on his game, he's a better defenseman than Kulak.
And again, you know, if we see what Kulak did in the bubble, he also has that in him as well. So that's what makes this tough. I just think that Mete has more of a chance to use that X factor the same way that I feel like Brett Kulak has the capacity to play a better idle game than Victor Mete. I see Victor Mete being able to bring his X factor more than Brett Kulak can, if that makes sense. Anyway,
yeah. Just one more thing about Brett Kulak. I feel like he does make those defensive errors that I don't see as much with Victor Mete, or he kind of corrects them with his speed. And like he can make a mistake and then just kind of come back and be like, all right, well, I'll just like sprint back and be there anyway. So yeah. But yeah, I see some kind of defensive lapses with Brett Kulak, especially in even this week. If we want to talk about it, well, I mean, we can stop talking about it, but I think Kulak and Romanov were kind of one of the problem pairings on defense for the Habs this week.
Yeah, I mean the whole team didn't look great defensively this week. I wouldn't isolate anyone particular for this week because it just wasn't a great week for the Habs in general. But yeah, I agree. That being said, I'm going to come back to my 6 story with Justin here. And then we'll move on to around the league. And then we have a quick trivia and we're going to end it for tonight.
You want to shout out who else was there in the little park there?
Of course. Actually, you want to do it? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I can start it off. We just went for a little walk in a park, a little winter walk, in the woods with a couple friends of ours, 4 friends of ours to be exact. Yeah. So it was Macky, Matheson, Bamsh.
Yeah.
Anthony, who used to be the producer of the No Respect podcast.
So was
back in the day.
Bamsh, by the way. So was
a much lesser role.
Yeah,
I like to say. It's okay. You won't listen to this anyway, so it's
we
okay.
had Matheson on as well last year.
Yeah, all friends and members, associates, we'll say, of the No Respect podcast, and we had a little encounter. So Macky, why don't you take it over?
Well, what was it? It was a Sunday. It was cold. There was a breeze, and we were in this woods. And the woods that we were in, if you ever want to join us, Angrignon Park, we will be there every weekend to replicate this. I wrote a little Reddit post, Macky _no respect. If any of you read it, but so it's gonna be recycled jokes. I apologize. But so we're in this park. Okay, we're in Angrignon Park, beautiful park. Just like there's a little bit of water. It's an oasis within the city. 10 minutes
wooded
away from
area.
the city. Literally 15 minutes away from the Bell Center. 15 minutes away from the Canadians' condos, where I believe that's where Romanov is staying. So close enough for Romanov to be in these fucking woods that we were visiting. So Justin, Anthony, Bamj, who is also called Anthony, and Matheson were walking, and I have my dog Maya with me, a 7-month-old German Shepherd Bull Mastiff mix. And
we're all social distancing, by the way.
We're all social distancing, of course.
Yeah.
And in the distance, in the woods, I see a frame. A good frame of work. And he's with what appears to be his partner in life. And they're laughing. He has long hair. I turn to my friends and I say, gentlemen, I believe that we are in front of Alexander Romanov.
The Tsar is among us.
The Tsar is among us is, I think, the word verbatim what I said. So as we approach, we then confirm his identity because you know why? First of all, we could have went left. We went straight for Romanov. We went straight for Romanov. We're like, this could be Romanov. Let's walk towards him. So as we were walking, I've still got Maya, who's a 7-month-old fucking insane dog. And so we're getting closer and closer, and the resemblance is just getting better and better. So we get close enough, and I confirm his identity. And I have with me Maya. So I look at him, he looks at me, and I'm gazing into his lip that he cut during, I believe, the Ottawa game by Chris Tierney, if I'm not mistaken.
You're
if
mistaken.
I get that,
it was actually practice. It was in practice. It was a buck.
Okay. All right. So completely mistaken. I thought I was going to kill that. I'm looking at Romanov's lip that's still slightly bleeding and quivering from the cold. And I say, Mr. And I fuck this up because we should have been saying Romanov all of this segment. We haven't. And I didn't say it in person. So I fucked that up. And I said, Mr. Romanov, I'm a huge fan. Go Habs, go. Looked at me, started laughing. He was with his wife, who I thought was fiance's wife. I got corrected on Reddit, so thank you. And he said, thank you. And Maya goes for this guy's nuts. So she's 75 pounds, 7 months. I have to pull her back.
Hungry for nuts.
So I pull her back. Anyway, that being said, we met Alexander Romanov. All was good. Crisis was averted. And yeah, it was amazing. We just walked around the woods talking about that for the rest of the fucking walk. Yeah. And then we saw him again, and he was like with a bag, which we later found out the bag that he was using to feed squirrels. So anyways, what a crazy walk.
Yeah,
that's
life-changing experience.
Legitimately. So if you guys want to reach and come to Angrignon Park with us on the weekend, we're there literally every weekend now because we're trying to replicate that moment. So little anecdote for the pod, a little exclusive one. Well, it's not that exclusive. I shared it on Reddit, but yeah. How was your? Is that pretty much word like what we
that was
experienced?
verbatim?
Yeah.
Like
okay.
I mean, from the
yes, from the memories. It was great.
From the memories. I mean, it was a moment.
Yeah, it was magical. It was magical. So yeah, incredible weekend. And then after that, they went on a huge losing streak. So I don't know if it was Maya's bark at Romanov's nuts, but I don't know. But at least the Habs seem to have broken that problem. So anyways, coming back to league-wide news, former Hab, to keep talking about the Habs, Mr. Alex Galchenyuk in another uniform, and this time it's the Carolina Hurricanes. He gets shipped off with Cédric Paquette, and the Ottawa Senators receive back Mr. Ryan Dzingel. So what do you think about Alex Galchenyuk, a Habs faithful for quite some time? And I know that, I know for me and Justin, Alex Galchenyuk, it was like looking in the mirror of what we wanted to be. You know, we were fucking 18 years old at the same time that Alex Galchenyuk was like 18. He's getting drafted 3rd overall for the Montreal Canadiens. We were just like, this kid's going to be lit. He had a great season in the short season, had like that 30-goal season, all of those things. So I'm just going to ask you straight up, buddy, is it over?
I don't know. I mean, I feel bad for Galchenyuk. I hope that he finds a home where he can actually get some consistent minutes and play some good hockey. Because I mean, he's shown, at least in Montreal, he's an effective player. He can be. He's maybe not a superstar like we thought he would become, but he can be an offensive player in the league. And I think he deserves some sort of shot. I think it's kind of a shame that he's been bouncing around. I think this is his 6th team in the NHL already. And I pulled up his stats earlier, and I did some little math calculations. Sorry.
No,
yeah.
King calculations.
A lot of wine tonight. Sorry, boys. But yeah, on the Habs, he had 255 points in 418 games, which is good for 0.61 points per game. And good. since then on other teams, he has around a 40.47 points per game. So it's definitely taken a drop off. I think it's obviously expected when you're kind of going into new lineups all the time and having to kind of adjust to new systems and new players, new line mates. And obviously not like in Montreal, he was the top kind of top player for us. He was a top forward for us. We wanted to be the top forward, so we were kind of putting him on the top lines, putting him on those power play lines. Whereas right now I don't think he's getting those options. Like he was a healthy scratch for Ottawa, which is one of the worst teams in the league. So that kind of says a lot, and I really hope he can turn it around and kind of find his game somewhere else. Obviously in Carolina. But yeah, it sucks because I think he definitely has the skills, and he has kind of the he has the skills basically to be an NHL player.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with everything that you said, but for a more definitive answer on my part, I think it is done. I just don't think that Alex Galchenyuk is going to turn it around at this point. I think that he's been given the opportunities. I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong, because I really loved watching this player growing up, and I still root for him, even though, like, you know, I'm happy with I was happy with the trade at the time for Max Domi. You tweeted it out tonight. He helped us get Josh Anderson. Fucking Josh Anderson, man. We haven't even said that, but Josh Anderson throughout this whole week has just been fire anyways. So
yeah, he's been the only player that has actually showed up every single game this season, I think.
Yeah, but coming back to Alex Galchenyuk, like, you know, I want this guy to succeed. Just the nostalgia factor for me is obviously irrelevant to anybody else probably that, you know, is watching this and is not a Habs fan and didn't grow up with Galchenyuk. But, you know, for me, that's one of the things is that you saw the promise, but, you know, the guy's 27. Let's like, you know, we're 26, 27. Like, it's, you know, we are who we are at this point. You know, there's a little bit of minor growth here and there, but, you know, you get to a stage, especially physically, we're talking about, like, there's no like real like big difference that's going to happen. And the main thing about Alex Galchenyuk and his game is, I think it's the foundation of his play, is that he's not strong enough to be a center, and he's not creative or offensive enough to be a winger. I don't know. It's this in between thing. It could be on the Montreal Canadiens too. I don't know. It could be that. Maybe we rushed him. We put him in situations where it didn't actually allow him to develop. I could be, Could be very well that, and it's very sad for him if that is the case. But it's interesting. I don't know if you realize that, like, when we look back at all of the players, like some of the players that we had hyped up, at least from our perspective, Nathan Beaulieu, we thought he might be a top 4. He's like a 6th, 7th in Winnipeg right now, and he's doing well in that role. PK Subban, he's doing better this season, but he was a guy that was our number 1, like unequivocal number 1 when he was here. And maybe it was the mirage of him, like, being the flashy guy that he was and the flashy play style that he had in a market that loved it. And he's not the player that he used to be. And then lastly, you got Alex Gauchaniak, Like, it's a weird coincidence, don't you find?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see the parallel, but I think that like what you said about him kind of being maybe rushed and not given the chance to develop, that might have stunted his growth. I thought he was growing like decently on the Habs. He was putting around 50 points a season. Like it's all right. It's not what we thought he would become, but it's definitely like a respectable kind of NHL player.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you're right that he never really developed the kind of all around skills that you need. He's kind of stuck in the middle of being like a top line like point producer, but he doesn't produce enough points to justify putting him on like a top line. So he's kind of stuck in that. I call it the Sven Andrighetto diagonal.
Yeah,
where he's got so much skill, but he can't put it all together to put enough points up to justify putting him on this kind of top line.
Charles Ludon.
Exactly.
What happened? It's exactly that. It's a guy that has the flashes. Alex Gauchaniak, out of all of the people that we just mentioned, though, had much more of that above. Flash and more consistently. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that for me is foundational play and also the details. Because that's what the NHL is. It's the small details, and usually the players that don't get away or don't find themselves in the lineup with those skills, the people that don't have the details in their games wound up. It's the small puck battles. It's the short one-touch passes. It's the defensive, coverage. All of these things, because then you become a liability on the ice. And the NHL, you can't be that, especially if you're not putting up the points that you're supposed to put up. So. That's it.
Just one little anecdote from his draft. His draft year was one of the worst of all time, probably, with Nail Yakupov first overall. But we picked obviously Alex Galchenyuk 3rd. You know who was picked? Who was 5th in that draft?
Is it Forsberg?
No, yeah, I think he's a bit older, but he's actually a Toronto Maple Leaf right now.
Was it Nylander?
No, it was actually Morgan Riley.
Oh, fuck. I'm
Picked
actually
5th.
dumb. Yeah, yo. What am I saying? Nylander. What if he's like 23? Anyways. So
Morgan Riley could have been a Montreal Canadian if we had drafted better. But if you look down the list of that draft, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
There's not many big hits on that list for sure. Like Cody Ceci is a first round pick in that draft.
Yeah.
There's also Matt Dumba, who's like a pretty good player, but yeah.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that Brian Burke was on the Spit and Chicklets podcast and talked a little bit about the fact that they had Morgan Riley first on their board. So they hated.
Who was that? On which team?
Brian Burke, and I think I think it was with Toronto at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably, yeah.
So they got Morgan Riley at the 5th spot, and they couldn't believe it because they had high hopes for him, and he hated Nail Yakupov. He had the worst interview with him. So
I remember that interview. Yeah.
Anyways, I'll let you guys go to the Spit and Chicklets podcast and find that one up. But it's an interesting story. So That pretty much does it for this week. I know that we ran long on how much time has gone by in this podcast?
About an hour and 5 minutes.
Okay, it was
Not
pretty
too
good.
bad. It's not
too.
bad. Two people, you know.
Back to our roots. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, well let's wrap up with trivia, and obviously there's nothing else after that, so that'll probably be the end because we have the bye week for those of you who are not aware. So the Habs are going to be off for quite some time, and again, guys, just join us in the Angrignon walks over here. We'll try to find as many Habs players as we can. You know, we'll figure it out for the pod. You know, so
I just want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Given that next week is a bye week,
yes,
do you think this week, like, we obviously won this last game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we showed kind of in the third period what we're made of and what we can bring versus the kind of shitty games that we've had in this week. What do you think you're going to see when they come back after a week off against the Maple Leafs again? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's a very good question. I think that the like if I were to think about this just off the top of my head, it probably doesn't help that we have a bye week. Either way, because if I honestly think that it would be more beneficial for the Habs to have the bye week and
At the
lose.
end of the season?
I could be wrong on this. But because you have a week to really like rest up, refresh, come in and do something. Now, whereas you could have ride the wave of the fact that you just won and take it into the next game, which would have been soon. But I could be completely wrong, and they take it the other way, which is just like they rest easy for the week because they win. So it's hard for me to say, to be honest. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree with you if, it's I think the momentum of a win is definitely something that is legitimate, and like the momentum of a win after a losing streak could bring you more wins, obviously. But I think if we had lost this game and then we're going into the bye week of like, just like, can we ever win again? Like, can we score goals?
Yeah,
because we actually score. It would just be a nightmare for the players. They'd all be like in their heads and stuff. And yeah, I just think it's great that we won. Maybe it's not the best thing that we won and then we're kind of just resting at home, but it can't be worse than losing for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Alrighty, well,
anyway,
we'll see what happens. Obviously, if the Habs come back and they're shit, I guess one of us will be proved right in terms of our takes. So, yeah. So you got trivia to finish off today's show. Quick thing that we'll do right now, since we can end it off right after trivia, is quick shout out to our
sponsor.
No, we don't have any sponsors anymore for now. But we have Justin _ no respect at Twitter, Macky _ no respect for Twitter. That's MACKY. And you got us on YouTube at No Respect Podcast. You got us on TikTok, for Christ's sake, at No Respect Podcast. You got us on Spotify. You got us on iTunes. You got us on Google. You got us everywhere. Just had to say it. So let's get into trivia.
Yeah, and if you have any takes you didn't like from us, or you just have any questions,
go ahead and roast.
Let us know.
We don't get paid for this, so just roast us.
We'll roast you back. Don't worry.
Yeah, we had one thing on TikTok. I'm gonna name the gentleman. His name is Logan. I think it's Shepherd, and he's been roasting us about the fact that we lost to the Leafs the first night. You know what I did? The first thing I did after we won tonight, Justin?
What was that?
I sent him 5 question marks. What happened, Logan? What happened?
What's a third period? What's that?
Well, this is the fun that we have, guys, with fans. So we know that we're gonna eat it. We're gonna give it back. So that's it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you got to be able to dish it and take it. That's
give and take. That's what this world is all about, right?
Exactly.
That's what it's all. It makes it go around. All right, trivia. Let's get it.
All right, so this is gonna be. It's not exactly a trivia. It's more of a little game inspired by the boys in at TSN. I don't know if you ever watched the YouTube series with the Bar Down guys from TSN, where they kind of go back and have to list a certain amount of teams or something that have a certain amount of goals or things like that. So this is basically going to be not really centered around the Canadians, but more the NHL. And you're going to have 3 strikes to go back and see how far you can get naming the Stanley Cup champions.
Oh boy.
So it's going to be, you're going to be put on the spot here. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It might be tough. It should be easy, but I know for you, it's going to be a bit tough.
Okay. All right. All right, buddy.
So we can start with last year's Stanley Cup champion, if you can remember that.
The Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
I'm proud of you there.
Thank you.
So that's the 2020.
Okay. I'll go.
Let's see. Can you name who they won against?
Dallas.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank God. Okay, year before 2019.
St. Louis.
Yep.
And
What's
that
the
was
team name?
against Boston.
What's the team name of the St. Louis?
of the Blues.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, you're right. 2018. You have 3 strikes. You can phone a friend.
Okay.
I'll be your friend. Don't worry.
Okay. Before that was Ovies, right? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
It was Ovies. So that one was against. Fuck, who is that against? Do I have to answer that, or is
You
just
don't
the
have
winner?
to. You don't have to. It's I was just
Let
gonna
me just try to guess here. Who was sick?
It was their
know-
first ever season.
Oh, the Vegas Golden Knights. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Shit,
And then
okay.
before that, 2017.
2017. Fuck. 2017. Where was that?
I'll give you a hint. It was against PK Subban.
Oh, fuck. That doesn't help.
What do you mean that doesn't help?
Was it? Hang on. I feel like it was a back-to-back there. No? Am I wrong? The Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Was against
And then
Nashville.
Yeah, and then I'll say Pittsburgh Penguins again.
Yep, 2016. And then 2015.
2015. Now, how old was I in 2015?
You're the ripe age of 21 years old.
21 years old. 2015. What the fuck was going on in 2015? Were the Hawks still lit? No. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Were they? Yeah,
They were. It was
Yeah,
Chicago, 2015.
Okay. And then
And
before that,
2014.
I want to say LA.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
2013.
Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah, bitch.
Yep.
And then I'm going to say
2012.
LA.
Yep, you got it.
And then
2011.
fuck, I'm going to
This one. Are you okay? You need a hint?
I think I'm okay. I think I'm going to say 2011. 2010, was that Pittsburgh? 2010 Pittsburgh? 2011 was... Yeah, go with a hint just because people are going to get annoyed if Meaty is just thinking.
It was against a Canadian team.
It was against the Canadian team.
There were some riots.
Oh, Vancouver. Boston. Fuck.
Yeah.
2011 Boston.
Okay, no more hints. No more hints. There needs to be some strikes here.
Fuck. Okay, then
Okay,
2010 was Pittsburgh.
Nope. First strike.
Okay, first strike. Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2010
Okay.
Chicago.
2009 Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Fuck. Okay. 2008. Fuck. No, this is where I was young, stupid, and in love.
I'll give you a hint. It was against Pittsburgh. But
Detroit.
no more hints. No more hints. Okay,
Detroit.
fuck. Yes. Okay, 2007. No more hints. None. 0.
I feel like Detroit did back-to-back too. Fuck.
That's 2 strikes. You have one more.
Okay,
And I
well,
think
can
I'll
you-
do it. I'll do this with Alex next week, and
Yeah.
we'll see who
I
gets
like
further.
this. I like this. But can you at least tell me the team if I get the strike? Like the strike actually means
Oh
something?
yeah. 2008 was it? Wait, you said Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2007 is the one you got wrong. It was Anaheim.
Oh, fuck. Did Anaheim do back-to-backs? No. Okay.
This is your last. This is your last strike. Okay. Not everyone did back-to-backs. You got that once. It's not
2006 Carolina.
Yes, sir. 2005, the lockout.
Okay. 2004.
Come on, this should be easy. Come on.
Really?
It should be.
2000.
It's actually, never mind. I won't say anything.
Is that the one, the Calgary Flames and Dallas Stars?
Oh man, is that your final answer?
That's the year before, I think.
Oh, you're butchering something here.
Oh, it's not the Dallas Stars. Oh, it's the Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay 2004.
Okay, I'll give you a chance here. You got it. You got it.
Vincent Le Cavalier. Yeah. I remember now. 2003.
Sure. All right.
Okay, 2003. Fuck. 2003. Now I've had my first erection.
It's your last strike.
At this stage.
It's your last. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. Last chance. Last erection potentially. That makes no sense at all.
Anaheim.
No.
Okay.
Last strike. Okay.
Done.
So you got until 2004. 2003 was actually Stats Guy, New Jersey Devils.
New Jersey. I'm such an idiot.
Yeah,
Fuck.
you are. And So I mean, you did okay. It was pretty good. It
was not bad.
I know it wasn't bad at all.
Okay.
It was it was decent.
I
Best
didn't
we've
look
ever
at
had,
anything.
I think.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I didn't look at a thing. So come on.
I'm expecting. I don't know. I think Alex is pretty good at his hockey history. I expect him to beat you.
Well, I live in the moment. You know me, okay? I don't need to dwell in the past. 1993, baby. 1993. 1993.
I think I didn't participate in this, but I think I could have gotten to like 2000.
Really?
I think so. But now we'll never know, but I think I could have gotten to 1900.
1909.
Montreal Maroons. Anyway, that's it for this segment. You got to 2004, was it? Tampa Bay with a lot of help. May I say?
Whoa! Lot.
You got a lot of hints.
I got a couple. Let's.
Might as well call you Rupe
a spade.
With all the hints.
Call a spade a spade. Okay.
You missed my joke, but it's okay.
What would you say?
I said you might as well call you Rupe with all the hints I gave you.
Hey, there we go. I like that.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's fucking wrap this shit up.
Let's wrap it up, guys. A huge thank you for everyone. Well, to everyone. Sorry, it's getting late here. For listening, and this week for the Habs, nothing's going on. So take the win against the Leafs. Breathe easy. I know I will. I know Justin will. And a huge thank you for listening to us once again. We really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. Feel free to reach out. Once again, you could follow us at Macky, MACKY _no respect, Justin _no respect on Twitter, and at No Respect Podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, all of those things that I said before, TikTok, YouTube, all of that good stuff. And feel free to reach out, guys. We're doing it. So with that being said, Justin, I always remind you to respect the
Orgasmination.
Have a great night, everyone. Catch you on the flip side.
Go Habs, go.
Go Habs, go.
Go Habs, go.
Go Habs, go.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Great.
I'm so drunk.